Hi everyone, this is Stacy Reynolds, and today I'm going to be going over a control chart tutorial. So if you're provided with just raw data, I'm going to show you how you can make a control chart from that. So let's dive right into our kind of practice case study here. We're going to say that you're a nursing leader in the neuro ICU at Memorial Hospital, which is a small community hospital. In looking at your unit's balanced scorecard, you see that the target rate for CAUTI is 4.9 per 1,000 urinary catheter days. However, even though that's your target, your CAUTI rate is much higher than this. So you're tasked with leading a QI team with the aim of decreasing the CAUTI rate to or below that target of 4.9 CAUTIs per 1,000 urinary catheter days. Before you begin implementing tests of change, you want to make a control chart for the prior 24 months of baseline data, or 2 years worth of baseline data. And this control chart should include these 5 components. So one is the CAUTI rate itself, the mean, upper and lower control limits, as well as the target. And this is the data that you're provided by your infection prevention department. So it's really just the number of CAUTIs and Foley days, or urinary catheter days. And this is all the information that you've been provided for your baseline 24 months. So what I usually do when I first start calculating all of this stuff in my Excel sheet is that I put all of this information into these headers. So again, we need to have our CAUTI rate per 1,000 Foley days, or urinary catheter days. We need a mean. We also need an upper control limit, a lower control limit, and our target or our goal. Okay. I'm going to expand this here so we can see it. Okay. So first we need to calculate our CAUTI rate. So I'm going to scroll in here. So to do that in Excel, we are going to use one of their calculation functions. So in this first cell here under our CAUTI rate column header, I'm going to hit the equal sign. And again, in Excel, anytime you start a cell with the equal sign, it knows that some kind of calculation is coming. So for CAUTI rate, it's going to be equals the number of CAUTIs divided by Foley days times, or an asterisk is what Excel prefers, 1,000. So number of CAUTIs divided by Foley days times 1,000. So that is going to give us a rate of CAUTIs per 1,000 Foley days. And I'm going to hit enter. And you can see there that we have now a CAUTI rate of 25. So let me go over that one more time. So to calculate the CAUTI rate, we're going to hit equal sign. It's going to be the number of CAUTIs divided by Foley days times 1,000. And then hit enter. Now you don't have to redo that calculation for each of these rows. Rather, you can click on this cell that has the calculation, and you can see up here, it will show the calculation for you. And I'm going to hover over this bottom right corner where you can see that there's a little box. Hover over it until your cursor makes kind of a plus sign. And when you have that, you can click, and we're going to drag this down to our 24 months here. And see that is calculated now the CAUTI rate for each of these rows. So again, how to do that is this little square box in the bottom right corner. Hover over it until your cursor forms kind of a plus sign. Click, drag all the way down, and it will automatically calculate that CAUTI rate for you. Now, if for some reason you didn't want this to go to 2 decimal places, maybe you only wanted it to go to 1, what you can do is, as this data is highlighted, you can right-click and go to Format Cells. So again, right-click, Format Cells. And here you can see it's a number. Decimal place is 2. You can just change that to 1 if you wanted to. And click OK, and you can see that it's revised this CAUTI rate, so we only have it to 1 decimal place. So it doesn't really matter, but if you wanted to mess with how many decimal places there were, that's a quick way to do it. Okay, now we need to come over here and we need to calculate the mean, upper, and lower control limit. So there are different ways of doing this. I'm just going to show you the way that I found most effective. So I'm just going to come over here to the side and I'm going to type out here mean, standard deviation. So that's one of the things that we need to be able to calculate our upper and lower control limits. Upper control limit, lower control limit. Okay. So next to this mean here, I'm going to hit, again, my equal sign, because that helps Excel understand that a calculation is coming. So equals, and for whatever reason, Excel doesn't use the term mean, it uses the term average, but it's the exact same thing. So I'm going to do equals average, and that doesn't necessarily. So I'm going to do equals average, open parenthesis. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click and drag all of this data under CAUTI rate. So again, we want the mean of the CAUTI rate. Once you've highlighted that, you can let go, come back up here, close your parenthesis, and hit enter. Okay, so let's try that again. Again, in this cell, I'm going to hit equals, so Excel knows that a calculation is coming. I'm going to type in average, open parenthesis. I'm going to click and drag all of this data under CAUTI rate, and then close my parenthesis. And you can also see this up here as well, or in this cell. Now you can see when you click on this, it says equals average D2, so column D, row 2, colon to D25. We hit enter, so that gives us the mean. Another way that you can do this is to do equals average D2 colon D25. And you can see that when I did that, it kind of automatically highlighted that same area. And then you can hit enter, you get the same mean. So there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can either click and drag all of that data, or if you prefer to look at what specific cells you need in it, you can also manually enter it that way. Now we're going to do the same thing for our standard deviation. Again, we're going to hit the equal sign, and the abbreviation for this is STDEVA. So it's just the shortened term for standard deviation. STDEVA. We're going to do an open parenthesis, and we're again going to just click and drag everything under our CAUTI rate. Close our parenthesis here, hit enter. Now we have our standard deviation. Similarly, you could also have done this by doing equals STDEVA, open parentheses, and then the D2 colon D25. Either way, will still get you the same standard deviation. Now, since we have our mean and standard deviation, we can go ahead and calculate our upper and lower control limits. So let me scroll in here. The calculation for upper and lower control limits is that it's the mean plus or minus 3 times the standard deviation. And so in Excel, we can really easily calculate this. So in the upper control limit cell here, I'm going to do equals, and it's the mean. I'm going to click on the value in the mean, plus, I'm going to do an open parentheses, 3 times the standard deviation, close parentheses. So mean plus parentheses 3 asterisks standard deviation. I hit enter, and that gives us our upper control limit. So I'm going to do that one more time. So upper control limit, you do equals. It's the mean plus, open parentheses, 3 times the standard deviation, close parentheses. The lower control limit is very similar in that it is, we do equals the mean minus 3 times the standard deviation. Okay, we'll do the lower control limit calculation one more time, and it's equals the mean minus, open parentheses, 3 times the standard deviation. Okay, and if we wanted to here, we could highlight this data, right click, click format cells, and if we wanted to do again maybe just a 1 or 2 decimal places, we could do that as well. Okay, so now we have the mean, upper and lower control limit, which we need to add to our control chart. So the mean is 23.2. The upper control limit is 37. The lower control limit is 9.3. And if you recall, let's go back to our case study here. Our target is 4.9. I'm going to put 4.9 in here. Okay. To populate this all the way down for your control chart, you can again click on this first cell, hover over that bottom right box until your cursor forms a cross sign, click and drag. And for this one, we're actually going to extend it into the future for 12 months. This will help us see any kind of special cause variation. So I'm going to extend it all the way down to month 36. Same thing for this one. You can hover over this box until your cursor makes a plus sign, click and drag, or you can just double click and it will automatically go down like that. Same thing here, hover over it, double click, and double click. So the data itself should kind of look like this. You should have all of this information up here at the top, filled in, and the only thing that should be blank here is this kind of last 12 months worth of data. So it's really helpful as you start a QI project, you can go ahead and build your data set with your baseline data and then lock and extend these reference lines into the future. And then every month you can come in here and just pop in the data and it can automatically update your control chart for you and allow you to see special cause variation. So now we get to actually make our control chart. So to do this, we want to include the month. I'm going to make this a different color. The rate, mean, upper and lower control limit, and the target. So those are really the only kind of data points that we need on our control chart. We don't need number of CAUTI or Foley days because we just want the CAUTI rate. So to include all of this, you want to highlight just this data. So make sure that you're not coming up here into the top row and highlighting the entire A column because that will highlight all of this data. You want to make sure that you're only highlighting the data that you really want included in your control chart. So I'm going to click on this A1 cell. I'm going to click and drag all the way down to month 36. I'm going to let go of my mouse. I come up here. Now I'm on a PC, so I'm going to hit Control, and I'm going to click and drag over all of this information that I want, all the way down. Then you can let go of your mouse. And so now I have all of this data that I want included in my control chart. Now I'm going to come up here to this Insert tab. And in this Charts section, I'm going to click on the line chart. You can just click on this first line, and here we have the start of our control chart. Okay, I'm going to delete this. If for whatever reason you're having trouble only highlighting the data that you need, I'm going to show you kind of a shortcut where you select all of the data and then manipulate the control chart itself. So if for whatever reason you're having trouble just highlighting this month column and then all of this data, you can highlight everything. So if you click on in this A1 cell, if you click, you drag, let's say you just capture all of this data, if that's easier, you can do that. Also go into Insert, the Chart section, and click on this chart. Now, for this, you can see you have a lot of extra lines here that you don't need. So one of them is Foley days. So if you recall, we don't need number of CAUTIs or Foley days. So I'm just going to click on this line. You can see where that line itself is kind of highlighted, and I'm just going to hit delete. Similarly, down here we can see that this number of CAUTIs is this blue line. So I'm just going to click on the blue line to where it's highlighted, and I'm going to hit delete. So now you can double check to see here if in your control chart you have what you need. So in the legend, you can see that we have CAUTI rate per 1,000 Foley days, which we wanted, mean, upper and lower control limit, and the target. Okay, so now we have the start of our control chart. So this is our baseline data, and these reference lines, so the mean, upper and lower control limits, have been locked and extended into the future. So as we add data now to our control chart, we'll be able to really easily identify special cause variation. So before we move forward, there's a couple of things that we should kind of revise to our chart. So one is that we really need to make sure that we include a descriptive chart title. So this is the CAUTI rate per 1,000 Foley days for the neuro ICU. I think it was at Memorial Hospital. Let's double check. Neuro ICU at Memorial Hospital. You want to make sure that your title is descriptive. So when people read it, they know that it's specific, to the neuro ICU, and it's not maybe all of the ICUs or the entire hospital. It's very specific to that one unit. Now we also need to label our axes here. One way to do this, if you're using a PC, is to click on the chart, and you can see that there's this little plus sign that populates. If you hover over it, it says Chart Elements. So I can come over here, click on it. It has this little box here. I'm just going to do Axis Titles. And you can see now we have Axis Titles here. So we can do CAUTI rate, month. Another way that you can do this, I'm going to get rid of these axis titles. Another way you can do this is by clicking on the chart, coming up here to the Chart Design tab, and over here to the left, there should be an Add Chart Element. You can see here, if you click on that, there's this option for axis titles. So we can say, yes, we want a vertical axis title and a primary horizontal axis title. So same thing. We're going to type in here, this is our CAUTI rate, and this is month. So now we have a title, our axes labeled, and a legend. And then you can come in here and kind of revise the chart however you want it. So here we can see like the target is this dark blue line. Let's say I wanted to make this, into a green line. So I could double click on this line and it will auto populate this format data series over here. You can click on this kind of paint can looking icon. And right now you can see that the color is blue. I'm just going to change that to green. And instead of a solid line, I'm going to come down here where it says dash type. I'm going to say I want this to be kind of like a dotted line. You can also make it a little bit bigger if you wanted to. Okay. You can also change the colors, the upper, lower control limit and the mean if you wanted to. One thing that I do kind of recommend is for your actual data line to add markers to kind of just help you visualize where the data are. So to do this, you just double click on this. It again populates this format data series. Click on this paint can icon. There should be an option here that says marker. Click on that and marker options. The default is to have none, just for it to be like a continuous line. But if you do built in, you can see there's different types of markers that you can choose from. And you can see that it now has like these little markers. And you can increase the size and things of that. So you can spend some time modifying your control chart to be whatever kind of format and colors you wanted. Say if you wanted it to match the colors of your hospital or something like that, you could do that. Okay, now we're going to copy and paste this as a picture into that Word document. So again, I'm on a PC, so I'm going to click here. I'm going to do Control C and we're going to go back to our Word document. And this is really important to make sure that you are copying this or pasting this as a picture. If I just were to hit Control V and paste it, you can see that the formatting is a little wonky. And if I were to change the size of it, it doesn't always stay. Also, as I make updates to my control chart in Excel, it is linked here. And so it will automatically update it in your Word document, which we don't want for this assignment. So again, make sure that when you paste it as a picture. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Here I'm going to right click in these paste options. This one here is paste as a picture. So you can see it's almost kind of like a screenshot of it, and you can resize it in the formatting. It keeps. Another way that you can do this is by going to this Home tab, paste, and then here are those paste options as well. You can paste it as a picture. Okay. So now we have our baseline data. You can see that our target is way down here and our CAUTI rate is way up here. So we do have areas of opportunity. So next, you stratify the 2 years of baseline data, the details of each CAUTI, to be able to identify opportunities for tests of change. So if we go to our Excel document, you can see that there's this CAUTI details tab here. There's all of this information in a table format about each specific CAUTI, which when it's in a table format, it really makes it hard to organize your data and identify patterns and things that will help you identify tests of change. So that's where stratification comes in. So we're going to say that this team stratified all of that information. So you can see here, this is, number of CAUTIs by male and female. And it looks like, wow, a lot of CAUTIs occur in the female population. So maybe you can think about tests of change related to females, like using external female urinary catheters. You also stratify data by diagnoses. And so this was a neuro ICU, and it looks like patients that were admitted with an intracerebral hemorrhage, ischemic stroke, and subarachnoid hemorrhage. So this kind of stroke population has a higher rate of CAUTI than the other populations. So this might be something where you go to the literature and you search around for what are specific tests of change or interventions that you could implement to help reduce CAUTIs specifically in that stroke population. You also take a look at, where was the Foley placed? It looks like most of them were placed in the inpatient unit or maybe in the neuro ICU itself. So maybe, you take a look at the Foley insertion techniques of the nurses. Maybe there's an area of opportunity there. This way it was stratified by day of the week the urine culture was drawn. It doesn't really look like we can get a lot of information from this data, and that's typical. Some of the stratified data just doesn't really provide things to test changes with. So you might say, oh, a lot of urine cultures seem to be drawn on Mondays and Fridays. Maybe you look to see why that might be. Kind of same thing here. The time frame, it looks like more cultures are ordered on day shift versus night shift, which may not be surprising, but something that you could look into. As far as the type of provider that ordered the urine culture, it looks like most of them were ordered by nurse practitioners and residents. So if you were going to, say, do educational intervention, maybe you would target those types of providers. You also stratified the data based on the organism that caused the CAUTI, and it looks like the vast majority of them were caused by E. coli, which was a gut bug. So again, you might be looking in the literature to see specifically what are interventions that you can implement that will help reduce CAUTIs caused by gut bugs. So you can see how the stratified data can really help you identify changes to tests that are really tailored to your local context and what you're seeing in your data. Okay. So let's say you've done your literature search, you've identified your test of change, and you begin implementing them in month 25. The Infection Prevention Department provides you with data monthly over the next 12 months, and here we have our updated data. Generally, you would be plotting this data every month as you get it from the Infection Prevention Department. You wouldn't be waiting, 6 months to a year to put the data in, because you want to be able to see in real time if your changes are making an impact. So we are actually going to copy and paste this data into our Excel document so we can update our control chart. So here I'm just going to highlight this information, CAUTIs and Foley days. We do Control C, go back to our Excel document, and I'm just going to plop this in here, starting at month 25. Sometimes what I also like to do is make this a different color, just so I can kind of visually see in my Excel document where these changes were made. And we also need to populate our rate, which again you can do by simply clicking on that cell up above it, hovering over that box in the bottom right corner, double clicking, and it will automatically calculate that CAUTI rate for you. So let's span out here, and you can see that our control chart now has been updated with this new data for the last 12 months. So now we are going to, again, copy and paste this into our Word document. So we're going to do Control C. And again, it's really important that you paste this as a picture. So I'm going to right click, paste as a picture. Okay. I am going to annotate this chart for month 25 when changes started. So there's a lot of different ways you can annotate the chart. One way is to come up here to this Insert tab. Let's go to Shapes. I'm just going to click on this kind of rectangle here. I'm going to go around to where month 25 is, and I'm just going to put here changes made. I'm going to make the font a little smaller there. But you could also do things, like PDSA cycle 1 or 2, 3, and annotate it in different areas as well. I'm just going to make this real simple. This is where my changes were made. Then I'm going to go back up here to this Insert tab, Shapes. I'm going to choose this arrow here. I'm going to say here that these changes were made starting in month 25. Okay. So now if I were showing this control chart to leadership or the staff, they would really be able to easily see when changes were made. Let's also kind of review this control chart to see if we can see any special cause variation. So for a control chart, special cause variation is identified with a trend, which is 6 or more data points all going in the same direction. A shift, which is 8 or more points either all above or below the mean. And if there's points outside of the lower control limit. So we want to make sure that the points are outside the lower control limit. That would signal an improvement rather than above the upper control limit. That would signal that our CAUTI rate was actually getting worse. So here again we have month 25. This is when our changes were made. There is a trend. So you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 of these data points are going down consecutively. So this would be a trend in the right direction for this unit. A shift is 8 or more points below the mean. So here we have our mean, it's locked and extended, and you can see actually all of these data points are below the mean. So we also have a shift. And then this line here is our lower control limit, and you can see that there are a couple of points here and here that are outside of that lower control limit. So we do see special cause variation in this chart. There's a trend, a shift, and points outside of that lower control limit. So even though they're not consistently meeting their target, they're showing improvements, and there are a couple of months when they do in fact meet their target. So because your team has identified special cause variation and there's enough data points in this kind of new part of the data set, you can revise the mean and control limits to reflect the changes in the new data. So let's go back to our Excel document. So again, these reference lines have been locked and extended into the future. But now it's time to revise them because we see special cause variation and there's enough data points in this new data set that warrants us being able to revise these limits. So I'm actually going to come over here. So again, this is our mean, upper and lower control limit. We're actually going to remove the data here. We're going to recalculate all of that information. So you can see when I did that, it removed them from the chart. So our upper, lower control limit and our mean, we're going to recalculate them. But we're going to recalculate them only for this new data, not for the entire data set, only for these 12 months of new data, because we want to see if any of these reference lines have shifted. Okay, so we're going to do essentially what we did before, where we're going to calculate our mean, standard deviation, upper control limit, and lower control limit. But we're going to do so only using this 12 months of new data. I'm going to put this in a different color so I can kind of more easily see it. Okay, scroll in here a little. So our mean, again, we're going to do equals average, open parenthesis. I click and drag, again, just those 12 months of new data, close parenthesis. Let me do that one more time. It's equals average, open parenthesis, click and drag just the new data, close parenthesis, enter. Same thing for our standard deviation. We're going to do equals STDEVA, open parenthesis, We click and drag just the new data, close my parenthesis. Okay. And then with these two data points, we can calculate our upper and lower control limit. So for this, the upper control limit, recall, is equals mean plus, open parentheses, 3 times standard deviation, close our parentheses. Lower control limit is equals mean minus 3 times the standard deviation, close parentheses. Okay. I'm going to calculate those one more time. So upper control limit is equals mean plus, open parentheses, 3 times the standard deviation, close parentheses. Make sure that you include the equal sign, so equals the value in the mean cell plus 3 times the standard deviation. Lower control limit is similar, equals the mean minus, open parentheses, 3 times the standard deviation, close parentheses. And again, if I wanted to, I could highlight this data, right-click, format cells, and change it to a number with maybe only 1 decimal place. Okay. So here we have our new mean. So I'm going to plug this in here. Our new mean is 10.1. Upper control limit is 22.6. And you can see that our lower control limit now is a negative number. When you have a negative lower control limit, don't include it in your control chart because it will make the formatting a little challenging to read. Also, you're not able to have, a negative CAUTI rate. And so it doesn't really make sense to include it on your control chart. So also don't put 0 in these cells either. Just keep it completely blank. So here again is our new mean. I'm going to hover over this bottom right, double click, and it's going to auto populate. Same thing over here. Double click, populate down for us. And this is our lower control limit column, and that's just going to be left blank again because that lower control limit is negative. So let's pan out here and see what our new updated control chart looks like. So now you can see that there's been kind of significant reductions now in your mean, in your upper control limit, and your lower control limit is negative, so it's not even showing up on the chart. So now you can continue on with different changes and PDSA cycles, and you would be assessing the data that's entered subsequently based off of this new mean and new upper control limit, trying to identify signals or special cause variation. So now I'm going to again copy and paste this into our Word document. Again, paste it as a picture. You can also come up here and grab your annotation if you want to. Although it is kind of obvious now where you made the changes because there's been such a significant reduction. And so there you have it. This is an overview of how you are able to construct a control chart, even when you're only provided just basic raw data from your healthcare system, and how you're able to modify this data so you're able to identify special cause variation after you make your practice changes. I hope you found this information helpful, and please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.